Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope that you found this video at the right time, at the right place, with your heart in the right place. I just had to add that in. Let's go ahead and let our shoulders down. Relax your eyebrows, tongue. Relax your eyebrows, relax your tongue. Breathe deep. Now, Capricorn, let's go ahead and let our original face settle in. You don't have to smile if you don't want to. This is not a time to pretend. This isn't a time to mask. This isn't a time to make noise or even say anything. It's a time to silence ourselves, because there may be a lot of things coming up for us that we also need to tend to and water. And as we let our original face settle in, Capricorn, let's go ahead and take deep breaths and stay here and remember who you are for just a minute. Come back to a time when you were a kid and you were completely, freely, and happy. Welcome to Safe Space. I'm going to go ahead and start shuffling these cards, and while I do this, let's just go ahead and keep with the deep breaths. Some words to keep in mind at this time, Capricorn. We have wealth, victory, love, wisdom, passion, fantasy, power. I have the Six of Cups, Four of Pentacles. This Six of Cups is giving me this sense of inner child, inner self. But it has nothing to do with the shadow. There isn't this shadow side just yet. There isn't a sense of having to protect oneself just yet. And having to come back to our original face and what that feels like. That is who you are. Ace of Cups. Bringing yourself back to what feels more fulfilling, self-fulfilling. This is a time when you perhaps are laying in bed before you go to bed and you just let that armor down. And then you face yourself wholeheartedly as pure. It has nothing to do with the shadow. What it may be about at this time, it may be about the shadow, but it isn't so just all about the shadow. And what Scorpio season might have brought up to your attention is your shadow side and what we have been struggling with also. And it was a struggle for our Capricorns during the Scorpio season. And if you have Scorpio moon placement, this might have been a great challenge for you to take on. I have the Five of Swords. This was the challenge that you were trying to take on that might have felt difficult, too overbearing to even take on, Capricorn. 8 of Cups. You having to face your own shadow, that was a challenge. Understood. I too struggled in having to face different sides of me. Having to face also these identities that were coming up for me as well. Scorpio season definitely pushed us to a point where even our own shadow couldn't clear itself to be what it wants it to be. There's too many doubts. There were too many having to fixate on fear. There were too many thoughts on who I am, what am I about, what am I here to do, what is my purpose, who am I coming out to be, am I doing the right things, do I even fit in, am I fitting in, am I trying too hard to fit in, do I make myself out to be in how I show up for the world and also how people perceive me. Scorpio season very much put us in a very intense place with our shadow. And a lot of the shadow work that we might have been doing or did not do, too fixated on the hurt and the pain that came with this, and that maybe having to do the shadow work was even too overbearing to accomplish. Understood. For some of us, this was the victory that we are feeling right now. This was the work that you did and are very proud of. This is the work that we have been putting in, and it wasn't the work that was very easy to take on. And for the rest of us, it almost seemed impossible to face it. And so we were probably ones to numb it, do all kinds of non-essential things that perhaps didn't make us feel any better, didn't make us feel nice, easy, comfortable. Having to face our shadow isn't the best feeling. And there might have been a lot of them that was pushing you to face and be attentive to. And a lot of that pain and what might have felt like suffering, it might have been the fact that we're not giving ourselves enough self-compassion. it is a lot easier to get through the shadow when we are being kind and compassionate and loving to ourselves. It is a lot easier to push through the challenges when it comes to our shadow when we do practice on saying things, such things as I am loving, I am strong, I am courageous, I am enough. Most importantly, I am enough. I am everything that I am amazing. And having to turn the I can't to I can, and having to shift the mindset from I won't to I will, and having to change our perspective from I don't want to I intend to, and having to reset, reprogram our psycho-cybernetics, and having to put us in a position where we are allowing ourselves to revive. It is much easier to face our shadows when we have this side of us that is willing, Capricorn. And that not everything that we face is challenging, and it doesn't have to be too challenging, but we can just look at it as a lesson to be learned. Got it. Such things as love your friends like you love your own mother. Love your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband like you love your own children. These are people who are just as human as your children and your mother. And radically having to be honest with our shadow, Capricorn, facing this is so essential, and not only to you, but to others as well. And so perhaps in the things that we want from people and the things that we desire, this may not be what we actually desire or what we actually want from people. It actually is something that we actually do not want. When we're operating from fear, what is the opposite of fear? The opposite of fear is love. When we are operating from fear, we attract this as well in others and places and things. When we're operating from love, because we are love, we attract the same things in our life. And what we might be desiring and wanting from people isn't actually what we want from them. It's what we think we want from them because we're operating in such ways. If that makes sense, and I hope that makes sense to you, because it doesn't fucking make sense to me. But this is how the messages are coming up. Who we think we are may not actually be the person you think we are, if it means only looking at the shadow of the self. If we were to only fixate on our shadow, that too we are manifesting, that too we are actually attracting. And what you want in a girl and what you want in a guy isn't actually what you want, if it means operating from fear. If it means operating from fantasy and not power. What is power to you, Capricorn? What does power look like to you, Capricorn? And what does fantasy look like to you? What are you basing power off of, and what are you basing fantasy off of? that is not entirely who you are. Your shadow isn't entirely who you are. And what you also may be thinking that's all you are, but it isn't. It's way past what the physical has to offer, if that makes any sense. How we perceive ourselves is actually how we perceive others. How you talk to others is how you talk to yourself. How you behave around others is actually how you are with yourself. And therefore you attracting the same things as you are. And if you cannot do it for yourself, Capricorn, do it for others. Retreat to the natural world. Go where you feel most alive. A peaceful forest, the mountains, your local park. Let the ocean roar through you. Be revived by nature's wonder. As I mentioned earlier, revive yourself. Keep yourself in a place of love and not so much of fear. I'm getting a lot of this shadow work that's coming up a lot. It's becoming more of what you think it may be, but it actually isn't, because we may be basing this off of fear, off of doubt, off of our shadow, way too much fixated in our shadow. Set limits with draining people. When people are depleting you, kindly set a limit, such as, I only have 10 minutes to listen now. Such self-care is respectful and empowering. Come back to your own self-respect. And what you also may be having to attract at this time, not so much having to give yourself self-compassion and not respecting yourself enough, and so other people around you isn't giving you the same kind of practice humility. Approach life humbly. No one is better than another. Keep your ego in check. Humility is the practice of being simple and valuing simple things. You're pretty simple, right? What we think we're attracting is actually not who we really are, if it means to only get what you want, Capricorn. You guys are funny. You're too good for your own good. And that maybe this shocks you too. I don't know what the fuck that means. I hope you do. Shit. The mystic. Magic. I weave my magic and surrender to the universe. Surrender. I'm going to pull up another card. And that may be what you see as power isn't actually what you think power is. It may be so that it's based off of the fantasy, in this fantasy world that you're living in. That's the power. The winged messenger. Creation, spiritual direction inspires my creative flow. Use this time to be constructive and not destructive. Capricorn. you really think about it, you're only hurting yourself when you do this. Take this as it resonates. People are only going to be harmful to you at the end because you made it happen first. Does that make sense? Because you've allowed it to happen in the beginning. Eventually, it's just gonna come right back to you. Go inside and make your intention known. When you give up the idea of my soul, you can experience boundless change. Shift to a whole different mindset. This too will change your sense of aura. I am specific in my desires and believe in getting results. And the results may not be what you think it is, Capricorn, if it means only getting what you want. Caps. This has been a very interesting read, and I hope it made sense to you. Thank you for letting me do this reading. I love you guys. Have a wonderful Sagittarius season. Remember, fantasy and power may not be the same things as you think it is. I'll see you guys in the next reading. Bye. Take care.